Good morning, my name's Richard Vobes. I'm the Bald Explorer, and today I'm in Shrewsbury, and I want to tell you the story of Robert Cadman. I'm standing here by the River Severn. That's the English bridge in the far distance, and over there where those buildings are, that used to be known as Gay Meadow. And back in 1739, during the Great Frost, which was sort of like a mini ice age here, the River Severn behind me was utterly frozen several feet thick, so thick you could bring a printing press and place on it. You could lead a horse on it. It's the 2nd of February 1739, and people were out celebrating the fact that, I suppose the fact that it was so cold. There was a chap called Robert Cadman who was a steeplejack by profession, and also a stuntman. And I'm going up to a church called St Mary's, and I'm going up this wonderful St Mary's Waters Lane, because at the top of this hill, which is pretty steep, is the church, and from the top of the steeple, Robert Cadman ran a rope, a hemp rope, right across down and over to the other side of the river to Gay Meadow. Quite a long piece of rope. And during the celebrations of that particular winter, he performed some daredevil stunts, the like of which I suppose had never been seen before. I mean, he was a consummate performer as well as his steeplejack duties. I should just point out, this is an area of the old friary just below the church, and the Blackfriars. It's a relevant bit. Excuse me being out of breath. It's a steep old lane, this steepish hill. Anyway, thousands of people had gathered to see Robert Cadman perform his stunts. He would walk up the rope, he would blow a horn, he would balance on it, he would mock fall, he would bash drums, but his piece de resistance was flying. He would virtually fly from the tower of St Mary's right down across the river into Gay Meadow. He wore this wooden breastplate with a groove carved out in the centre, and that would be fixed onto the rope, and he would effectively glide down this rope, arms outstretched, legs akimbo, and the friction burns, apparently, they say, caused the rope to smoke, so that he had veritable smoke trails behind him, which was pretty incredible. So I'm going to take you up to the church and show you just how amazingly tall and high it is, and what a beautiful old church at the time, the main church then of Shrewsbury. And it's on my left. Everywhere was freezing cold. Well, during the performance, actually I wanted to go around the other side, but it doesn't matter. During the performance, and I apologise for the police sirens going off, it's early in the morning here and already things are going astray. During the performance, in order to go down this rope, it had to be of a certain tautness, and he was worried that it was a little too tight, in fact, and so he signalled to his the person who was on the top of the tower to loosen it off just a little bit, but the signal was misunderstood, and in fact the rope was tightened further, and what happened was it snapped halfway through his descent on the grooved board, and he was flying down, and suddenly the rope snapped and he fell to his death, sadly. His wife was in the crowd below gathering money. She was, they were paid to come and fix, I think, the weathercock at the top of the church, and suddenly an almighty cry went out from the crowd as the rope snapped and poor Robert Cadman came falling down to his death. There was nothing that could prevent him from dying because the ground obviously was so hard, and in fact they say his body bounced back up 12 or 13 feet until it sort of came back down again, and the poor man was utterly demised. It is an incredible church, I have to say. It's on one of the highest points in Shrewsbury, and before all these sort of larger Georgian and some of the older Elizabethan buildings were here, of course the view would have been rather spectacular. It's made of this terrific red sandstone, or it's built of this rather wonderful red sandstone, which I believe is, and don't hold me to this, but there's a place called the Quarry, and I think the Quarry was originally a quarry. It's now a park, and there's some beautiful botanic gardens there with flowers mainly, and then there's the river, and of course it's a place where they put on all sorts of events. There's the flower show, there's the food festival, and various music festivals get performed in there. But originally, if you go back to excuse me, back to just after the Norman period, I think that the quarry gets its name because this red sandstone was quarried. Now, whether it actually came from there or fairly locally, this whole area has this amazing deeply seamed red sandstone that has lasted the passage of time incredibly well, although above is a different sort of sandstone. It's a different colour, and so obviously that's come from somewhere else. This whole area up here at the St Mary's quadrant, I suppose you could call it, is a beautiful square, as I say, the highest point, brilliant views, and then just to show you this, you can't see down to the river because of this, the Parade shopping centre that's here now. Of course, this originally was the infirmary, and a rather magnificent building in its day, and an incredible improvement on what would have been the smaller little hospitals that had survived until then. But as the population in Shrewsbury grew, the necessity for a proper operating hospital was essential. And as I come round the side of the church here, I just wanted to show you another part of Shrewsbury, which is now flats, but much more, I think, a Victorian building, the nurses' house, or flats, where the nurses would have lived to support the hospital. Absolutely incredible. And at the back here, to just show you this, the back of the church, where I can't get in the church because I've come too early in the morning, so that will have to be on another video. But you get these amazing windows, and of course from inside, the beautiful windows, and they are protected. They're very important windows. They're spectacular. The church now is under the church, what's it called? The Preservation for Churches, for Old Churches Conservation Trust, or whatever it was. I just read the sign and now, of course, I can't remember it, because it is no longer a serving church. There are several churches actually in Shrewsbury, but it is the oldest and biggest and probably the most loved, I imagine. So there you are. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed my little video. If you care to subscribe, that would be fantastic. Don't forget to press the bell notification, and if you enjoyed it, give me a thumbs up, and of course make a comment. So from St Mary's and the story of Robert Cadman, who was only 28, until the next time, goodbye.